This episode marks a year since the beginning of the Leaders podcast. 39 episodes, 24 incredible guests, thousands of insights, and hundreds of tips, tools, and frameworks so you can make the impact you know you can make. Everything is busy these days. We're all working harder to achieve the same goals. So managing our time and energy is more critical than ever. A full calendar does not equal productive leadership. A great place to start is tracking where your energy is going. By knowing where it's already been spent, you can make better choices around where it goes next. Productivity isn't even the goal here. The goal is impact. Prioritization is not a productivity hack. It's an act of leadership. As a thank you for being the listener to the Leaders podcast and helping me get to 1 year, this bonus isn't available anywhere else. This is just for you. Hey, welcome to the Leaders podcast with me, Laura McDonald, the leadership coach and mentor. Come with me as I explore the elements of leadership that give leaders like you the power and confidence to make the impact you know you can. I'll be sharing my own experiences, top tips and insights, and talking to some very special guests to share their thoughts and leadership experiences on mindset, influence, change, and growth. So let's get right to it. A lot of clients over the years have showed me their calendar, and the first thing I've thought many times is, wow, that's busy. Which is usually followed by thoughts like, where are your breaks? Where is the time for you to do your own tasks? And how do you process what's happening without any gaps? But what if your calendar became the clearest reflection of your leadership values? This episode marks a year since the beginning of the Leaders podcast. 39 episodes, 24 incredible guests, thousands of insights, and hundreds of tips, tools, and frameworks so you can make the impact you know you can make. So I'm celebrating. I've designed something special for you. In this episode, I'll be talking through all the reasons why you need this. Then I'm going to give it to you completely free. I recently had a new client start with me who was struggling to balance their busy home life with their high-pressure job, juggling too many balls and experiencing a lack of organisation, which was impacting their confidence and not allowing them to focus on getting the best out of others because they were too busy trying to get more things done. We spent much of their first session working out the structures, tools and support functions to make space for themselves. By the time the client came back to the next session, they'd already made significant steps towards achieving more space, mentally and physically, so they can delegate effectively, implement plans rather than just make them, and spend their time, energy, and influence where it adds the most value without overwhelm. This is just the beginning for them, but the immediately actionable tools and frameworks we agreed together meant the pressure could immediately start coming off. We're all guilty of saying at some stage or another, I don't have time, and there's many reasons why that happens, common ones being a feeling of powerlessness, hopelessness, or overwhelm. But behind that is our own bias working against us. You've heard me talk previously about confirmation bias, and this often plays a key role in building those feelings to the point we believe we really don't have time. We see our diaries packed to the rafters and more coming in day after day. We build to-do lists without limitations or priorities and come to believe that the list will never be complete, confirming even further that we're powerless to control it. When others start confirming meetings in our calendars without talking to us, especially when we perceive those people as higher authority, it's solidifying further our belief that we cannot change the disorganisation and therefore have no say on how we spend our time, energy and influence. Eventually, this drives us towards behaviours like firefighting, reactive instead of proactive in almost everything, meaning we're now also behind the curve and constantly trying to catch up. Everything is busy these days. We're all working harder to achieve the same goals. We're surrounded by constant noise. So managing our time and energy is more critical than ever, especially for the introverts among us who needs that quiet space to reflect and think before speaking. Remember, this is up to 50% of your team, and it might include you or it might not. But either way, creating that space will be critical for those team members achieving their goals. And if your calendar is full to the brim, your team will feel pressure to have theirs the same way. So being the right example to them means you've set yourself and your team up for success. Same with your energy. It's not just about how much is in your calendar, it's what's in your calendar. who you're focusing on, how efficiently you're using your time with them, what decisions you're making and how you're making them, and your deep focus areas and your boundaries around that space. And your gaps, the strategically placed space to ensure you process effectively and serve your own needs. There's a reason I focus on this so hard with most clients in their first sessions. Without it, there's no space to focus on the work they do with me, physically or mentally, and they won't implement any of the strategies or plans agreed. But more than that, they will continue to be overwhelmed, feeling powerless and still telling themselves they have no time, so their work, their team, and their personal life will continue to suffer. With it, they feel empowered to make more change, energized to act on plans, and confident in the knowledge that all the power they need for this is in their hands. So that's what I'm sharing with you today. A practical, human-centric framework for reclaiming time, energy, and influence. From busy to brave. So let's address this feeling of powerlessness. As I've already said, some of that seems to stem from others putting things in our calendars without asking, and we're left feeling like we can't challenge it in any way. Some of it from endless to-do lists, and some of it from a perception that a busy diary means we're being productive, when in fact we're being anything but. However, where this really comes from is how we're spending our energy, cognitively, emotionally, and physically. Cognitive energy is spent on quite a lot of things. For instance, paying attention to specific information or tasks, problem-solving and decision-making, as this involves reasoning and logic, and weighing up options, sometimes with incomplete pictures, learning new things, recalling past events, understanding, processing and expressing thought and feelings through language, and the building and development of our perception, so how we take in sights, smells, sounds and so on around us. When you really think about it, we spend an awful lot of energy on cognitive processing every day. When you get that feeling of mental exhaustion at the end of the day, it's probably coming from here. Our emotional energy is spent on processing feelings, anything from one end of the scale to the other of emotions, which includes the emotional labour we put into surface acting, serving others without serving ourselves, or the little and large worrying we do, and dealing with taxing emotional situations like conflict. Emotional energy is not just spent on negative, though. It's also spent on the positive, making it renewable and more sustainable than negative emotional energy. For instance, time with friends and family who bring us joy and make us feel good, developing our expression of needs clearly and assertively so we don't have to spend energy on misunderstandings later. Gratitude, positive affirmations, mindfulness and awareness to recognise our emotions and focus on being present. And setting boundaries. For example, learning to say no to things we don't want to do or we don't have space for. These activities, among other things, contribute to the development of our emotional intelligence and help us recharge our emotional energy as well as spend it. Physical energy is probably a little bit more obvious and easy to break down in terms of where we spend it. Walking, running, going to the gym, lifting and carrying, all these kinds of activities account for 15 to 30% of our total physical energy a day. Eating is about 10 to 15% of our daily physical energy use, and the remainder, usually around 60 to 70% of our daily physical energy use, is our basal metabolic rate, which is all the energy your body uses to stay alive. For example, keeping your heart beating, maintaining your body temperature, repairing organs. For example, if you get a cut on your knee, your body will spend energy healing it. It's the reason you feel so tired having been ill. Your body's used up a lot of energy trying to get rid of that cold, so now you're exhausted. And that's why rest is often a crucial and central piece of advice with illness. So since a large chunk of your daily energy use is being spent on necessary functions to keep you alive, in reality you only have a smaller percentage of your energy actually available. So it's important that you spend it wisely, and in the places that add most value to your fulfillment, joy, well-being and life in general. Energy is renewable, but only if you manage it. A great place to start is tracking where your energy is going. By knowing where it's already been spent, you can make better choices around where it goes next. I'll give you a for instance. Someone in your world who spends a lot of time complaining about everything and not working towards any kind of resolution can be quite draining to spend time with. On reflection, you realise you've spent hours of your time listening to them, trying to be a good leader, friend, whatever it may be, trying to offer supportive advice that will help them move forward, but instead they're ignoring it and using you to rant at. There are plenty of people out there who've got wrapped up in a situation in their own lives and done this to someone else, but when it becomes a long-term experience with that person, it's time to manage it. Instead of spending whole days with that person, you may choose to only spend a couple of hours with them and book an engaging activity to keep the focus on more positive things. You may set boundaries by telling them you're not willing to talk about a situation they are not willing to resolve any longer. You may step away for a while, or set a rule that that time with you is for building positive memories or learning and growth. On the other hand, you have someone in your life who brings you constant positive experiences. When challenges occur for you, they help you solve them in a way that empowers you. When you do activities together, you always laugh your socks off, and they're a generally energizing person to be around. But you don't get to spend time with them more than once a month, and even then it's only for an hour or two. You take the time you were spending with the draining person and use some of that to spend more time with the energizing person. The same can happen with work activities. If you have tasks that drain you, identifying what's draining you and putting boundaries, frameworks, and support structures in place to help you feel not drained by those tasks will lift you up to be more effective and productive when you're doing them, or recognize you shouldn't be doing them at all in some cases. Similarly, tasks that bring you fulfillment, engagement, and motivation can be planned for when you need an energy boost, or can have better focus placed on them at the right time so you get to take in that engaging and motivating experience. It's also important not to get into habits that try to conserve energy in the wrong places. For instance, consistently going without a lunch break or not eating enough throughout the day may be conserving some energy by not eating their food, but spending that energy elsewhere without the food to replenish it will leave you worse off by the end of the day. It's also important to understand the impact of spending your energy in the wrong places. The ultimate outcomes are lower general energy and engagement, lower quality of work, or worse, the same quality of work with a lot more effort having been put in, meaning you're now totally wiped. Difficulty recovering the next day, opening a door for a vicious cycle to start, an inability to support others in an impactful way. It's also setting an example to your team that you aren't serving yourself. So when you tell them to serve themselves, why would they believe you're the right person to tell them when you can't do it yourself? See, that's the light bulb moment here. You're not just affecting yourself, you're affecting everybody around you. But it's not time you're lacking, it's energy. There's one truth I want you to keep in mind here. Prioritization is not a productivity hack. It's an act of leadership. A full calendar does not equal productive leadership. Productivity isn't even the goal here. Your calendar is a strategic mirror. Are you spending your time on influence, vision, and growth, or just operations? One of the main elements you need to confidently prioritize is your stakeholders. You have quite a few, your team, your peers, your direct line manager as a start, but beyond that, everyone else in the organization is a stakeholder. So are your clients, your support network like coaches and mentors, and anyone else impacted by your role or actions like suppliers and contractors. Even peers in learning are stakeholders. What they see and hear from you in learning environments may impact their own learning and growth, and therefore the impact they have on returning to their roles. By knowing who your key stakeholders are, how much influence and strategic importance they hold, and the current state of your relationship, you can effectively plan the high-impact conversations with the key players and allies to drive outcomes while avoiding time wasters with the blockers. By channeling your energy in the right direction and planning out engagement into tangible goals and actions with the right stakeholders, your goals become achievable and impactful, and you'll be more motivated to act on building strong connections and influence with those around you. You're also better prepared for these high-stakes conversations as you've now got the space to align your message, timing and delivery with the needs and motivations of the stakeholder, fostering an environment for collaboration and engaged activity. You see, the goal isn't productivity, the goal is impact. Purposefully impactful activities get you to the strategic goal, the place where relationships are most connected, influence is at its strongest, and outcomes are driven while serving everyone's needs and motivations on the journey there. Putting myself back in the shoes of a team member, I would rather have an impactful leader than a busy one. I would feel more motivated, more committed, more strategic myself if my leader put impact as the priority. And I would feel like my leader actually has the time for me when I need it, because they've already made time for themselves. Isn't that the kind of leader you want too? Prioritization is an act of leadership. The person you're directly leading is yourself. You then indirectly lead everyone else through example. In episode 10 of this podcast, Every Moment Matters, I shared with you the Eisenhower Matrix as a tool for prioritization of tasks. Tools like this have been repeatedly used with many of my clients, and they work, not because we get ruthless, but because we get realistic about how much time they really have and bring the unimpactful noise in their calendars out into the light so we can remove it and make way for more of that strategic gold. The Eisenhower Matrix works on urgency versus importance. The only thing we get ruthless on is what these two words really mean. If you want to learn more, head to episode 10, Every Moment Matters, and listen in. I spoke earlier about people who drain or energize you. Every interaction we have is an exchange of energy. We pick up on what the other person is feeling, and it impacts our own emotional state and energy levels too. As the leader, think of your presence in the team as the weather system. When you come in bright and sunny with optimism and encouragement and clarity, your team feel energized, safe to innovate, and motivated to contribute to team activities and discussions. When you come in foggy and obscure, unclear, distracted, and avoiding the tough conversations, the team can't see what direction they should be heading. They second-guess their priorities, and they lose their confidence that they'll find their way at all. When your time and energy are not managed, you're likely either showing up as foggy or like a turbulent wind, constantly shifting priorities and directions, trying to cram everything in, making your team feel disoriented, exhausted, and unable to pin their work to a specific purpose. When your time and energy are managed, you're likely either showing up as sunshine or potentially a rainbow, the clear sky after the rain, acknowledging tough times and supporting the team to reframe them with resilience and lessons to take forward. You could even be the balanced climate. If times are tough right now, you're blending steadiness with inspiration, so the team feels stable yet motivated. You can't always control the climate outside the office walls, but you can control the climate you generate inside those walls. Every interaction is an exchange of energy, and your team mirror your emotional tone. Your calm breeds their clarity, your stress breeds their chaos. This is a form of emotional contagion theory. When one person's emotions and behaviours lead to similar emotions and behaviours in others. As a leader, this is amplified. Most other people entering a meeting with a little bit of tension wouldn't draw too much attention. But you walking into a meeting with a little tension could easily stop the room. Small but impactful actions like taking 3 deep breaths, building rituals to reflect, and of course the energy tracking I mentioned earlier, can all support you to have a more positive emotional impact on your colleagues. But in my experience, one of the biggest barriers to building stronger connections and influence, as well as one of the most common causes of stress in leadership, is a lack of structured, actionable, and direct feedback, both to the leader from their own leaders and from the leader to their teams. While we may hold back from having them through fear of others' reactions or what others may think, when we can hold these common and sometimes difficult conversations well, it can unburden us from the emotional reaction to what's happened, even if it's positive. More than that, when effective feedback isn't given, it creates a whole host of problems across the team that you, the leader, then have to try and manage, including team dysfunction, low morale, lack of communication, increased misunderstandings, no growth and learning, and missed organisational goals, and pure frustration for everyone. Learning how to give structured, actionable, and direct feedback may seem unrelated to your emotional state, but if this is something you are or have ever struggled with, think about what it would feel like, or does now if you've shifted, to know that everything that needs to be said in your team and with your leader is being said. The return on investment speaks for itself. Higher engagement and morale knowing there are trusted relationships and structured conversations where everything can be explored. Reduced burnout and turnover because team members know exactly where they're heading, how to get there, and how to communicate with you about their work and workload. And greater alignment between the vision and daily behaviours across the team, because everyone's on the same page. And once you've created that space we've been talking about throughout this episode, you can focus on giving effective feedback rather than rushed or no feedback, because you do have the time. And more importantly, you have the headspace and the confidence to do it well. I said at the start of this episode that I sometimes see a client's calendar and think, wow, that's busy. Here's what I mean by that. A busy calendar is reactive rather than strategically proactive, scattered instead of prioritised and impactful, and usually driven by other people instead of by the person who owns the calendar. But I do see another kind of calendar, sometimes from clients who've done the work, sometimes from learners who've learned lessons early on, sometimes from people who have a more natural ability to see their priorities and impact. I call this one a brave calendar. What I mean by that is that everything in it is intentional, focused, and values-led. It's clear when I see a brave calendar that the person knows their priorities, limitations, their personal boundaries, and their goals. They're more likely to be effective as a leader, knowing what their intentions are and visibly acting on them. After a whole year of the Leaders Podcast, I've evolved my own skills in energy management. Creating, recording, and editing episodes along with guest bookings and management and cutting trailers and managing all the social media around this is no easy task. So managing my own energy is key to ensure you guys get the best from me. It also ensures I produce something I'm proud of, something impactful, something I know was worth all that effort. There are more fantastic guests, roundtables, and episodes coming your way very soon. But before we get to all of that, I have an early Christmas gift for you. To celebrate the first year anniversary of the Leaders Podcast, I've created a brand new resource to help you make the impact you know you can make. The Strategic Middle Leaders Toolkit. Inside, you'll find a stakeholder mapping template to identify your key players, blockers, and allies, an influence planner to plan those high-impact conversations that drive outcomes, a feedback framework to use feedback with clarity and emotional intelligence, and a leadership mood tracker with weekly reflections to track your energy and productivity, deepening your self-awareness and strategic clarity. This toolkit is completely free, and the link to download it is in the description for this episode. And as a listener of the Leaders Podcast, you're getting a bonus. Inside the toolkit, you'll find details of my brand new 30-minute Influence Lab, the coaching lab for high-stakes leadership conversations, which includes exclusive access to the Influence Script Pact, 5 templates for high-impact conversations to build your influence. As a thank you for being the listener to the Leaders Podcast and helping me get to 1 year, enter the code INFLUENCE50, all in capital letters, all in one word, to grab your Influence Lab for just £50. That's over 20% off. This bonus isn't available anywhere else. This is just for you. Shift from reactive to strategic, from scattered to prioritised, from relinquished power to intentional control over your calendar. Explore your energy management to spend the valuable energy you have wisely and purposefully to renew it and make it sustainable. Lead your own schedule by discovering your key stakeholders and where your time and energy needs to be strategically placed to build connection and influence, and develop effective feedback skills to take the weight of all that's unsaid off your shoulders and set yourself and your team up for success. The goal is impact, so turn from busy to brave and see what happens. To everyone that has listened and contributed to this podcast over the last year, I want to thank you so much. When I started this whole thing, I never imagined that this whole experience would be so good. I have spoken to some incredible people in the last 12 months, and I can honestly say I learned just as much as I gave. It's been an incredible, insightful experience, and I'm so looking forward to the second year. So when I say thank you, it's because in whatever way you contributed to this podcast, none of this would have been possible without you. Until next time, everyone.